Hello, everybody. Welcome to your Sunday episode of The Expendable Show. And I'm your host, The Expendable. If you like my show, like, subscribe, and ding the bell. It helps my show grow. And this episode is brought to you by Gatsby Trading Solutions. So we're going to go down through the we've got some big topics to cover. We're going to get deep. But let's go through our statistics real quick. So the Doge actual website hasn't changed. We're still at 206 billion. On the debt clock, we're at 632 billion, which is 5,635 per taxpayer. Gas prices went down this week. So the national average is 317, so it's down 2 pennies. The mortgage rates were sitting at 6.54. So we're still under the Biden average, but we still have yet to see this half a point drop that Jerome Powell said he was going to give us in this month. Trump's approval rating went up 0.8% this week, probably with the whole Charlie Kirk thing. That's understandable. So Trump's sitting at 45.9. The Dow Jones closed on Friday at 45,834, which is the record. Well, the record's actually 46. The Friday it got up to 46, and then it dropped down a little bit when the close happened. So we're seeing the stock market continue to climb, which is good for the American heartbeat. Democrat Party's approval ratings 33.3%. Yay, good job, guys. So Friday night, I interviewed the 5th District congressional candidate for the United States Congress, the United States House of Representatives, Victor Hill. If you have not watched that interview, please go watch it, especially if you're a conservative. He's more of a moderate, and me and him have become close, and we have a lot in common. And as far as like criminal justice reform, we believe that there's some things that can be fixed. So we talk about it all the time. We pretty much stay talking to each other all day. So that's something that I'm very interested in. And he's on the same page. He leans more conservative when it comes to criminal justice reform. He was a former sheriff of Clayton County here in Atlanta, which is one of the highest crime rates in Atlanta, especially since he got out of being sheriff. The crime rate seems to have gone up, and he's trying to fill the seat that the legendary John Lewis used to sit in. So there's a high standard there. But if you haven't watched that interview, please go watch it. His platform's pretty solid, and I support him. It's in a heavy blue district. The Republicans generally do not do well there at all. I'm not even sure we even have a Republican candidate contesting that. But he's trying to unseat a super progressive, super like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez level of liberal. So I'm supporting him to unseat her. That way we can have at least one person in Congress that can stand by John Fetterman on the Democrat side and make sense. So that's kind of the strategy behind that. I don't think it's a big secret what the strategy is. Somebody who's willing to work with the Republicans, I think. And he's expressed interest in working with people like Marjorie Taylor Greene in Congress to get some reforms done. And I think she's going to be receptive of that. So that's that. So please go watch that. It's a good episode, and he's always entertaining. So we're going to get really, really in depth with the whole Charlie Kirk thing, because there's a lot of stuff out there. So we're going to go through and talk about these things. So obviously, for those of you who don't know, maybe you don't pay attention to the news or whatnot, I have learned that there's a lot of people in America who do not know who Charlie Kirk is. So Charlie Kirk was the founder of Turning Point USA. He was fatally shot on September 10th while speaking at Utah Valley University. The shooter fired from a rooftop roughly 200 yards away from the event, which they estimated there's about 3,000 people in attendance. Authorities recovered a high-powered bolt-action rifle and identified shoe prints and palm impressions at the scene. So the alleged shooter is 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, and he's from Utah. He was arrested after a family member tipped off authorities, citing Robinson's growing political radicalization and mention of Kirk's event. So Robinson faces aggravated murder and other felony charges. The Justice Department is considering federal charges, and Utah officials may pursue the death penalty on this case, which I think is probably a certainty that that's probably going to happen. So investigators found engraved bullet casings with obscure online memes and gamer references, including phrases like, "Hey, fascist, catch," and "If you read this, you are gay, laugh my ass off." Experts say the messages reflect deep immersion in online subcultures, but no clear political motive has emerged. So I have, when it comes to this specific piece of evidence with the shell casings, so I try not, like, I have to report at what is given to me at face value. But in the way that I've been so involved in all these government agencies and cultures and all this stuff, I tend to question information when it's given to me, because we live in a world full of psyops. And so when stuff's left out in the open like that, it either tells me this kid was really dumb and sloppy and thinks he's playing Call of Duty, or this is part of the psyop. So that's the two kind of angles that I have to look at this with. Now, I don't want to go crazy and jump down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole just yet, because I want to believe that Kash Patel is a straight shooter and that he's going to give it to us bluntly, and he's shown that in this chain of events. Like, he's been very transparent about things. And so I want to take that at face value. But in the back of my mind, I always worry about the psyop. And when things are too easy and when they're out in the open, I tend to question them. And I think there's a lot of people out there in America that are questioning this whole scenario, going, why, how is it this easy? But if Tyler Robinson is the perpetrator, which you're innocent until proven guilty in this country, then he's going to be held accountable for this. And then, if he's found guilty, we'll know that this is just a sloppy situation. However, I've seen some footage, and once again, I can't even believe that, because we live in a world of AI, and I'm not tech savvy enough to look at a video and go, has that been AI doctored or not? There's some things that are obvious that you can tell is an AI generated video. But like, sometimes some of these people are good at what they do. So there's also an older gentleman that I saw a video walking past, like, very close to Charlie Kirk's tent. And he's got his arm under his hand under his arm like this. And it looks like he's holding a gun. And then once the shot goes off, he puts his arm down and kind of hides. But it just depends on, what's up, G bro? It just depends. Boy, Notre Dame's not doing too good this year, man. What's going on? But anyway, it makes me think. So if we know what caliber of firearm was used on Charlie Kirk, then we can pretty much either credit or discredit that theory. So, there's still a lot of information to go through, and I'm not going to jump on any bandwagons. They just arrested a guy today that was trying to deface a Charlie Kirk memorial in Utah, and some people that were there nabbed him up and threw him on the ground, and then the police arrested him. That guy looked an awfully lot like the videos of the shooter too. So there's a lot of stuff floating around out there. They're also throwing around the Nick Fuentes theory of his little group that didn't get along with Charlie Kirk. There's stuff floating around out there about that, but I'm not gonna spend a lot of time talking about those things, because I don't have the intelligence capabilities to go through all of that stuff and go through Discord and Twitch and all those platforms and find out who's just a bunch of dumbass kids playing stupid games and what's a legitimate person out there. Me personally, I'm not a big Nick Fuentes fan. I wish everybody would just distance themselves from him. I think he's a little too radical for me. I like to be rational, and he's been talking a lot about revolution since this happened, and like in a whole other different level. So I try to keep myself away from people like Nick Fuentes. I don't agree with his ideologies. And I just think that he's part of the far right problem that we have. So some of the, so Erica Kirk, obviously a lot of people saw that she had made a video and kind of a memorial. And I thought she did a really good job under the circumstances of it being so close to his death. I thought she handled herself well. It had to have been very difficult for her to do that. But she delivered an emotional address vowing to continue his mission and calling his death a rallying cry for youth activism. His memorial service is scheduled for September 21st. President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance are expected to attend. Now, they did J.D. Vance orchestrated this awesome motorcade, and J.D. Vance helped carry his casket to the motorcade. So I thought that was a very nice gesture by J.D. Vance. A lot of people think that Charlie Kirk was a radical. I disagree with that. I do not think Charlie Kirk. I did see that, G bro. Notre Dame did a very nice tribute to Charlie Kirk before the game. I saw that across a lot of the sports this weekend, even in some of the NFL games. So I'm glad that the pro athletes are taking this very seriously. I know Ohio State, they did a thing, and Charlie, and it's going to be for the college kids, especially because Charlie Kirk spent his career going around to these college campuses. He was here in Georgia at UGA. Hi, Rachel. Glad you made it. Hopefully your mom's doing good. But the college kids are who's affected the most. You're going to have some of the radical ones that didn't like Charlie Kirk, but Charlie Kirk flipped a lot of people who were lost and brought them into the light. And I think when you see the response, it's just like what everybody's running around saying. When George Floyd got killed, what everybody do? They burnt cities down. Charlie Kirk gets killed, and what happens? You have vigils, candlelight vigils, people getting together and praying, people talking, churches doing tributes. Everybody, look, this thing spreads everywhere, and we're going to get to that here in a second. But anyway, I thought Erica did a fantastic job of talking and getting her message out there, and she's going to be successful without a doubt. I believe that she's very capable of carrying on Charlie's name along with everybody else. Candace Owens had a very nice tribute as well. So multiple educators and airline employees have been fired or suspended for posting celebratory or mocking remarks about Charlie Kirk's death. One of the first people to speak out on that was U.S. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy, who I love Sean Duffy. He said that behavior, he's calling for permanent removal of those involved. Now, you're hearing a lot of these leftists, they're getting on TikTok and all their platforms, and they're crying, the ones that get fired. Like, well, we got fired for our constitutional right. Look, let me explain something to people. Yes, you have the right to free speech, God-given right to free speech in the United States of America. However, you are still liable to be held accountable to your free speech. And I know this very well because in the journalism world, I have to be careful with what I say, because although I have free press, I have free speech, I have to be careful with what I say as well. I have to make sure that if I say something that I know that I have the certain effects to back up what I say. So I'm very careful when I make my videos and when I talk to people and when I get on TikTok and make my TikTok videos. I'm not going to make a TikTok video unless I know what the facts are. Sometimes I make the video and I let them think I don't know what the facts are, but really I do, because I won't make the video until I have everything I need to back up what I'm saying. So it's a touchy subject because you can be held liable. You can be held in guilty of defamation. So there are consequences to your freedom of speech. And so that's what's happening right now. These people want to speak out and say nasty things about Charlie Kirk and be insensitive. Well, when you're an educator and you're saying, I'm glad that Charlie Kirk's dead, is that the type of person that you want to teach your children? Hate? You want hatred taught in the schools? That this is what's really in this teacher's heart? Did you get into teaching to help the youth, or did you get into teaching because you want to be part of a progressive movement? So a lot of people are really showing their ass right now, and they're getting shut down. People are getting fired left and right. I think there's over 40,000 messages that they have found of people in high places, people in education, people in business that just don't want to shut up. And 50 Cent said it best. Somebody had asked 50 Cent, what do you think about this whole Charlie Kirk thing? He said, I'm not really sure, but I know it's probably a good time for everybody to shut the fuck up. And he was right. And everybody should have listened to 50 Cent, because if you don't have anything good to say, it's probably a good time to shut up, because this is going to be a dangerous time. If you're on the left, you could lose your whole career just by being ignorant, because you think that your free speech comes without consequences, that it comes without discord. And it does. Anything you say can and will be held against you. And that's the fact of the matter. If you don't like it, go move to another country, and you'll find out real quick that you have less rights to speak there. So take advantage of what you have here. Be careful with your words, because your words do have consequences. Yes, you can say whatever you want, but you can't guarantee that there's not going to be a pushback to what you say. That's right, Rachel. FAFO. That's what happens. And these liberals don't figure it out. They keep going after stuff and attacking things. And then what do? We attack them in the financial sector. Oh, you want to do the trans thing with Busch Light? Okay, guess what? Busch Light can go bankrupt. You want to Target wants to put transgender clothes out there? Guess what? We'll stop shopping at Target. And everybody does this in mass, and it changes. Cracker Barrel wants to change their logo. Boom, you can lose $100 million in your stock value in one day. So this is all stuff that the conservatives do very well. Conservatives generally spend more money than liberals. So this is where they're effective. Their weapon is not radicalization. Their weapon is, we'll hit you in the pocketbook. And it's effective, because you see these companies flip real quick and say and correct these things, because at the end of the day, it's a business, and your success is measured by your profit margin. And if you're not making a profit margin, guess what? Somebody's getting fired, just like the CEO or the director or whatever from Cracker Barrel. They fired them real quick. Every single one of these people, they cleared out their front office and said, hey, this liberal stuff ain't going to work. And it's effective. And now you're seeing that with what's happening now. Scott Pressler is leading the way on this. I follow Scott Pressler on all my platforms. He is very quick to point it out and say, look what this person said about Charlie Kirk. Look what this person said about Charlie Kirk. And then a day later, hey, update, this person got fired for what they said about Charlie Kirk. So you're seeing like Americans coming together and saying, we are tired of this shit. We're tired of it. This hatred, all of that. Now I'm going to say, they want to say, well, George Floyd. Okay, look, I'm going to give you my expert opinion on George Floyd. Yes, George Floyd had enough fentanyl in his system to kill himself probably a couple times over. It's unfortunate. Did I want George Floyd to die? No, I did not. Do I think George Floyd is partly at fault for what happened? Yes. Do I think the cops were partly at fault for what happened? Yes, I do. Because when you look at the amount of time that they had George Floyd on the ground. I forget what the exact time is. All the liberals know what it is, like 8 or 9 minutes. That's too long to have a subject on the ground. I've been there and done that. If you have somebody on the ground that long, you're wrong. You want to get them cuffed, get them off the ground, and get them in a cruiser. They waited too long. They dinked around with it, and George Floyd died. So I think overall, everybody in that situation was wrong. Now, that's my opinion, and people can either like it or don't like it. But that, after I've watched the video 1,000 times over, in the mind of a law enforcement officer, those officers were just as wrong. Now, do they teach the knee on the neck? Yes. But if you put your knee on someone's neck long enough, something bad is bound to happen. You increase the probability of something bad happening. So I think that's something that everybody needs to scrap. And I think a lot of the law enforcement agencies have scrapped that method from their training methods. So that's a touchy subject. So I'm not going to disagree with their rendition. Do I think George Floyd's a hero? No. Do I think it's unfortunate? Yes. Do I want to see that stuff happen? No, I don't. But I don't hate. I'm not going to go throw shade and hate at George Floyd or at anybody who supported George Floyd, because it's unfortunate. That thing, it never should have happened. Maybe it still would have, but it would have, if he would have overdosed and died in the police car, we would be talking a whole other different story. Nobody would even know who George Floyd is. So there's a lot of, but the cops didn't do themselves any justice in that by keeping him on the ground that long. I would have got him off the ground as quick as possible. Get him cuffed up, get him off the ground, get him walking, and put him in the cruiser. Anyway, Charlie Kirk didn't deserve this. Yeah, detainment is the key, Rachel. You know just as good as everybody else. Get him in, get him out of here. We don't have time to be having cameras on us all day out on the street. That's where we run into problems in the law enforcement world. The longer you have cameras on you, the worse off you're going to be in the court of law. So it's just a fact of the matter. So Kash Patel came out and made some statements that everybody is running around and going, what is? So he made a statement, and I'm going to read it. To my friend Charlie Kirk, rest now, brother. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla. Everyone is going, well, he's a Hindi that's running around talking about Viking stuff. And okay, well, obviously Kash Patel chose his words wisely. Kash Patel knew what he was saying, and there's people out there that understand what he's saying. Am I going to pretend like I know what his code is? No, because I don't. But I know symbolically what it means. So when he said we have the watch, that's a traditional military phrase often used in Navy retirement ceremonies, symbolizing that others will carry on the duty. So, and Rachel will know a little bit about that. Valhalla refers to the Norse mythological hall where warriors slain in the battle are honored by Odin. It's often used in military circles as a poetic tribute to fallen comrades. So there's several different ways you can look at that part of the phrase. In the Viking world, every Viking wanted to go to Valhalla. It was an honor to go there because then you get to train with the slain, and you're a better warrior than you were in the earthly realm. So it was an honor to die and go to Valhalla. So that's kind of where that goes in a short summary. But all the conspiracy theorists are saying, oh, Charlie Kirk, that he's saying Charlie Kirk's still alive. Oh, he's saying that there's going to be this world changing event. There's going to be this, there's going to be that. Keep in mind, everyone is sitting around here speculating. These are all speculations. There's no clear-cut answer to most of these things we're hearing. We still have the infancy of this investigation going on. All we know is Charlie Kirk was killed. He was assassinated. There is a suspect in custody. The suspect is awaiting Well, I believe he's facing the aggravated murder charge, and there's probably more charges coming. So we have a charge. We have the whole court procedure to go through. There's discovery that needs to be put together. There's still a lot of work that needs done in this case. So before everyone jumps off the conspiracy theory bandwagon, just take a minute to let this information come in. This is why I don't like to go down that road. Correct, Rachel. Till Valhalla, people who know the history will understand. A lot of people are trying to comment on it that do not understand the history. I'm a history nerd, so I have a pretty good idea of what it means. But I'm not going to speak on it too much because it's going to feed into the conspiracy theory fire. So Patel was raised Hindu, and Charlie Kirk was a devout Christian. So invoking Norse mythology seemed theologically mismatched, and I agree. When I watched Kash Patel's, as soon as he said Valhalla, I was like, whoa, what did Kash Patel just say? Because everything I know about it comes to my mind, and I'm going, why did that man say that? So there is definitely something there. And I like Kash was stone cold fire when he said it too. If you watch it, that man had that was a whole other different Kash Patel standing there. And so he definitely wanted to make sure everybody knew, like, I'm not playing. So some people think that it's a sentiment saying that it honored Charlie Kirk's fight for his beliefs. Maybe could match up. So it's still out there. Maybe Kash will come and explain himself someday, but I'm guessing he's not going to. I'm guessing the people who know will know. Which, as we know, Trump speaks in code a lot. Kash Patel speaks in code a lot. Dan Bongino speaks in code a lot. So those guys are very cryptic in what they say a lot of times. So I want to bring to light, and when I was talking to Victor Hill, he brought this up, and I was going to bring it up anyway because I'm in agreement with his rendition. So Utah Governor Spencer Cox. I think Spencer Cox gave one of the greatest speeches I'd ever heard. During the press conference, and it was right before Kash Patel spoke. So I'm not going to go through the length of it. You guys can get on YouTube and Google Spencer Cox speech, and it's kind of lengthy, but I thought it was fantastic. But he urged Americans to reject political violence and find a better angel, and that kind of resonated with me a little bit because I thought, man, that really kind of hits home a little bit, like. There's a better angel out there. Find that better angel within yourself, because the way that we're doing things right now, this isn't working. He referenced his we need to disagree better. And I agree. And me and Victor Hill talked about that on Friday as well. Like we have to be able to have a conversation about controversial things without shooting each other or stabbing each other or going off on the internet and bashing each other. There's a better way to do this. And I think Charlie Kirk did it well. I think he went to these college campuses and he gave these people that had different ideologies, and he gave them a microphone and said, let's talk about it. And it was a great thing. Yeah. Does Charlie Kirk have some ideas that and beliefs that people don't agree with? Absolutely. I have a lot of ideas that people don't agree with. Everybody here can say, well, I'm a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of that. But is the next person standing beside you going to be part of that? Probably not. Everybody's going to have their own little twist on things. So this is who we are as humans. We're all individual human beings. And Charlie Kirk was no different. So we've gone through this, and there's this mourning. we're mourning Charlie Kirk, and rightfully so. I've been paying attention to the response because it's important to me to see what the country's doing, and then I looked and seen what is the world doing. So the Governor Cox went on to say, "Nothing I can say can bring back Charlie Kirk." He said, "Our hearts are broken." And he accepted deep sympathy for Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica, and their children, saying, "We mourn as a nation." Now, internationally, and there's some controversy around this first person I'm going to talk about, but I'm going to talk about it anyway, just because he did make a statement. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called Charlie Kirk a lion-hearted friend and said he was murdered for speaking truth and defending freedom. Israeli leaders across the spectrum praised Kirk's support for the Judeo-Christian values and condemned the violence. That was nice. In Europe, right-wing parties in Hungary, Sweden, and Germany held vigils and issued statements blaming leftist incitement. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban said Kirk's death was the result of an international hate campaign by the progressive left. South America, Argentinian President Javier Milei posted a tribute alongside a photo of himself with Trump and Charlie Kirk, calling the left a violent phenomenon filled with hatred. Labor Party leader Keir Starmer called the killing heartbreaking and emphasized the need to free debate without fear. That one surprised me because the Labor Party is a socialist party. Keir Starmer is the head of that Labor Party. And Keir Starmer has been very outspoken as far as we want illegal immigration and all this. Keir Starmer is a turd, and England hates him. But for him to say that tells me something. So he's right, though, that we need to be able to have free debate. We need to be able to have debate without violence, and we've gotten away with that and gotten away from it. And I remember back in the day, you could debate and not have to worry about it. Like, you could still have friends at the end of the day. Now you can't do that. You get into these online arguments with people, and pretty soon the person that you grew up with and you bled with and you probably committed some crimes with along the way, and you cried together and you loved together, and now 30 years of friendships down the tubes because left wing versus right wing. And we're at that point. We can't have differing opinions anymore because you lose. You're gonna end up at war with the people that you used to care deeply about. And it's a tragedy that's where we're at in society. Like I've been saying, we have gone backwards and we are now cavemen again. And I don't like that. I think it's petty, and I think that we are weak as a society for doing that. I would like to think that that as human beings, we have evolved somewhat, and I'm not seeing that evolution anymore. I'm not seeing it. So Rachel brings up a good point. She says, "I agree, but we need to stop that." And how do we do that? I think in reality, it would be nice. It would be easy for me to get out here and say, well, we all just need to come together and sit down and talk it out and blah, 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 blah. But we know damn well that the radicalized groups on the right and the left, both, they are so far radicalized that there's no coming back for them. So what I recommend is that we just take them, label them as domestic terrorist groups, and RICO them, and then sort out the bad ones and the good ones, the bad ones and the not so bad ones, and get the leadership broke up, find out who's funding them, round them up. Like, we can't continue to have a country that is in denial about radical groups. That's where we're screwing up. The people, the feeder organizations that keep the radicalization fed are the problem. And until we address that, and until we round those people up, we're not going to solve the problem. It's going to be a tough decision, but I think President Trump's the right person to make that decision, because it was a tough decision to create the tariffs, and Trump did it. And so I think he's going to take a hit for it, but I think he's going to recover just like the economy did after the tariffs. They thought he was going to tear the economy apart, but now we're hitting record highs and everything. So I think that's something that President Trump should do. And you're right, Rachel. They're the ones keeping the divisiveness going in this country. The feeder organizations that continue to pay these people to act like complete fucking idiots, and it's leading to violence. And now we have snipers. Now we have bombings. We have school shootings. We have all this stuff going on, and we're going to get to that. I was very surprised to find that Black Lives Matter's Global Network Foundation issued a powerful statement rejecting reactionary violence and called for an end to political vengeance. They urged both sides to mourn without dehumanizing each other. That was a good statement. I support that statement, and I'm glad that you guys made a statement. That helps. I think when you have somebody on the opposition of where everybody points the finger all the time, and they come out and say, whoa, we're not going to participate in this, and we want there to be a peaceful solution, that's a step in the right direction. Even though I have not been a supporter of Black Lives Matter, I think when they put out a statement like that, that's a step in the right direction. So just kind of a cultural thing. So the shooter's cryptic bullet engravings included references to the video game Helldivers 2. Helldivers Part 2, not Part 1, Part 2. I don't know anything about video games. I stopped playing video games probably in 2009, I think. I mean, I played them with my stepkids sometimes back in the day, but I didn't play it on a regular basis. So I don't know nothing about the video games nowadays. But it sparked backlash in the gaming communities. Developers and moderators distanced themselves from the violence and temporarily locked the forums, which was a good idea. They should have done that, because what those of you who are older, like my age, older, even some younger, and you have teenage age kids, this is where we're failing as parents right now, is we're not paying attention to their online forums, their gaming forums, Twitch, their Discord accounts. This is where the radicalization is happening. It's happening right there. These kids are in these forums and they're feeding off each other. And there's certain people in there that are ops that are feeding the fires in there. And we're ignoring it as parents. We're saying, Johnny's just in there playing Fortnite with his buddies. Sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes they're playing games, but they're on their forum as well. And they're all going, man, yeah, fuck Charlie Kirk. They're doing stuff like that. And then pretty soon you got all these kids and they're throwing Charlie Kirk was a racist. Charlie Kirk hated these people. He hated these people. He hated the LGBTQ community. And then pretty soon somebody's going, well, I'm in the transgender community. Yeah, I'm offended. And then this whole thing blows up on these gaming sites. And they do the same thing in the trafficking community. You don't know how many times in my investigations in Kentucky where I've come across parents that come to me and say, I have people preying on my children on the online gaming systems all the time. Discord's really bad. So pay attention to what your kids are doing online. It's a breeding ground for like indoctrination. So I gotta check my my online questions real quick and make sure I didn't miss anything. Nope, I'm good. So no good questions on my online thing. So now what has been happening? I spoke briefly about the global Christian movement that has happened, and the leftists are not going to see this because they don't put anything religious on CNN, MSDNC, and some of those channels that just spew the hatred all day. And I'm not going to say that the right don't do it. I watch Fox brainwash people all day too. I do watch a lot of Fox, and my dad's going to yell at me and say, "Oh, you should stop watching Fox." But I watch Fox because I need to know what they're trying to. I need to know what they're trying to implement to their viewers. It's not that I like Fox. I really don't like Fox, but I want to know what they're trying to brainwash people that think like me to think. I want to know what CNN is brainwashing the leftists to think. I need to know what MSNBC is doing. I need to know what Russia Today's doing. I need to know what Sky News is doing. I need to know what the BBC is doing. I follow so many news outlets. It's insane. And like I was talking to Rachel in the comments like earlier today, and she was like, "I don't know how you do it. Like you do all this stuff." I said, "I know, it's ridiculous. It's just nonstop data collecting all day." She said, "Well, do you ever sleep?" I said, "Well, sometimes my body just shuts down. It's like I'll be working, I'll just be like on my keyboard or whatever. If I know that I can't go lay in my bed, because as soon as I lay in the bed, my body shuts down and it's over with. So as long as I stay standing up and I'm moving and I'm on my phone or I'm on my laptop or I'm researching something or I'm watching the news, I'm good. But as soon as I sit down on the couch or sit down and lay down in my bed, my body says you're done. Like within seconds, I'm asleep, dead sleep." I probably shouldn't say that because I got some haters out there. We'll talk about that here in a little bit too. But anyway, in the United States, thousands gathered outside Utah Valley University and churches nationwide for candlelight vigils. I saw a lot of them online. It looked like there was a humongous turnout for all of them. Evangelical leaders like Franklin Graham and Pastor Rob McCoy called Kirk a Christian martyr and urged believers to stand boldly for truth. Franklin Graham, I wasn't a huge Billy Graham fan, but I love Franklin Graham. I think this guy stands for all the right things. He's a humanitarian. I love that. Whenever something happens, Franklin Graham and Samaritan's Purse is there within minutes to help. And they are very generous with the money that they collect, and they throw it all out to disaster areas. I love what Franklin Graham has done. He's doing a great thing. Churches in Texas, Florida, and Tennessee held special services titled Faith Under Fire. I like that touch. I thought that was very tasteful. In England, the United Kingdom, which I'm banned from, in London, there were rallies where tens of thousands mourned Charlie Kirk's death, though organized by far-right activist Tommy Robinson, which that's what England calls him. Many attendees carried crosses and quoted scripture, framing Kirk's death as a spiritual battle. Even in Canada, I almost called him Canada. Even in Canada, Christian ministers like Rick Pearson called Kirk a voice of biblical clarity in a nation that has lost its way, and held prayer gatherings across Ontario and Alberta. In Israel, churches and Messianic congregation held joint services with Jewish communities honoring Kirk's support for Judeo-Christian values. Online, there were virtual live stream prayer vigils and Bible studies dedicated to Kirk's memory. They've drawn millions of views with hashtags like Faith for Charlie, Christian Martyr. Those things are trending globally. Most demonstrations emphasize peace, courage, and spiritual warfare rather than political retaliation. Many invoked Romans 8:38 through 39 and John 11:25, affirming Kirk's eternal life through Christ. I'm trying to take care of myself. I try. I just don't leave the house. That's what I do. I just in the house. And we talked about that with Victor Hill, that if they got to Charlie Kirk, who had a lot of security. Granted, there were some flaws in his security, but I have 3 million views on TikTok. Now, that's not a humongous amount, but it's decent. And I have enemies out there. I piss people off on a daily basis on TikTok. I get death threats on a regular basis. So I have to sit here and I have to start being conscious of that. Like, if I step out of my house, is there a sniper across the street somewhere? What do I have in my backyard? What is in the back of my car? If I go to the gym, is there somebody perched up somewhere? Like, because people can find your patterns and figure out where you're at, what you're going to be doing every day. Like, if you have certain patternistic things, I have to change my pattern all the time now. So it's something I have to start thinking about. And Victor Hill was like, yeah, I have to think about it too. I have to go stand up in front of people and talk about my viewpoints that may be different than everybody else's. And it could inspire retaliation. So it's something that we all have to, that people that are part of that public world have to think about. And when I was on the news in India, they expressed the same thing. Like, things have changed. Like, India was very supportive of Charlie Kirk, even though they're Hindu. They were like, yeah, we like Charlie Kirk. And so that's something that's affecting us globally. This isn't just a United States problem. The world is feeling the death of Charlie Kirk. And even in Nigeria, it was in Lagos and Abuja. They were having vigils. There's a pastor in Africa, and this was in Nigeria. He put out a statement for Charlie Kirk as well. Like, you're seeing this everywhere. I saw where a group of kids in Africa, and I don't remember where it was at, but it was on TikTok. They engulfed an entire mall in the city in Africa and started singing worship. They started singing worship songs. And I thought the amount of positive energy coming out all over the world for Charlie Kirk speaks on who Charlie Kirk was and what he did for people. Yeah, there's people out there that don't agree with Charlie Kirk. I get it. I don't hate you for it. It's okay for you to not like Charlie Kirk. But the amount of people that did like Charlie Kirk love Charlie Kirk. And his death was affected globally. And we're seeing it in real time. So I looked into Tyler Robinson, the shooter, a little bit. So he himself is he's registered as an unaffiliated voter. Now, the Democrats are going around saying he was a righty. He's a righty. He was an unaffiliated radical voter. As a matter of fact, he never declared a party when he registered in 2021. And he has not voted in the last 2 elections. So for him to fight fascism when he's never cast a vote in a presidential election tells me your idea of what you think this country is about is sick and twisted. You're right, Rachel. The Lord's army is showing its strength and might right now. And I love it. Like, I've been on a high like the last couple of days because I'm seeing all this great positive energy coming out of the world right now. And it's engulfing the naysayers and the vile things that are coming out of the opposition. They know that they're outnumbered heavily right now. So the family background of Tyler Robinson. So his parents, Amber Jones Robinson and Matt Robinson, are both registered Republicans, according to public records. Matt Robinson was a longtime veteran of the Washington County Sheriff's Office. And the family is described as having conservative, gun-friendly upbringing. Now, the difference is their son started to become radicalized. Somewhere along the lines, something happened to him where he broke away from the family moral compass and went in a different direction. Not sure yet how that happened or why it happened or who that happened from, but hopefully we'll get some answers on that. But he turned radical for some reason. So that's the situation. And I was going to talk about the recent school shootings, but I'm going to save it for Wednesday. because that's going to be a whole other thing. I didn't think I was going to talk about Charlie Kirk for 50 minutes, but I'm going to go into some of the Kentucky stuff that I've done this week really quick before my time is up. So I worked on a case this week involving a guy named Greeley Brandon. They called him Bacon. His last name was Hurley, Greeley Hurley. He was 30 years old. He was fatally shot on April 5th, 2025 during a physical altercation in a business parking lot in Belfry, which is in Pike County, Kentucky. It's close to the Kentucky, West Virginia border there. So for those of you who don't know. According to the Kentucky State Police, the incident involved a 57-year-old man named Paul Coleman. He is from Meta, Kentucky, which is in that same area. Hurley was transported to Tug Valley ARH Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead. No arrests were made immediately following the shooting. The case was presented to the Pike County Grand Jury to determine whether criminal charges would be filed. The investigation was led by KSP Detective Mahala Lewis with assistance from Appalachian First Response Ambulance Service. Now, I covered this because there's conflicts of interest in this case. I have talked to his, Bacon's dad very in depth. He's a very good dude. I like him. He's a good guy. Very down to earth. So Paul Coleman, in the meantime, I made a video about it and I talked about Paul Coleman a little bit. Didn't talk too much, but he sent me a message with several threatening messages to me on TikTok. And then he ended it by saying, I bet you Judge Robbie Wright would love to have you in his courtroom, like basically saying that he's going to sue me for defamation, which good luck with that. And that he was going to have his buddy, Judge Robbie Wright, do the case, which he's a dumbass. This guy's a dumbass, and he doesn't understand that he would have to file that in Georgia, and Georgia would have to relinquish the case to Kentucky, which they won't do. So they would have to come up to my playground and try to sue me from here. This guy's a dumbass. So he basically came out and admitted, I'll get away with whatever I want because I'm friends with the judge. Now, Paul Coleman is also friends with another judge, or he's not friends. He's related to Judge Eddie Coleman. Now, Judge Eddie Coleman, I've been attacking him because he refused to recuse himself in a case where there was a conflict of interest because he's friends with Judge Robbie Wright, who is friends with Paul Coleman, in this other case where Judge Robbie Wright's mother was killed in a car accident. And they're trying to set it up to where this kid gets the book thrown at him because of a car accident where Robbie Wright's mom pulled out in front of this guy. So yeah, Pike County, they do not like me there. I will not make it. I will disappear in Pike County if I ever go there. Guaranteed. There's so much good old boy system. They've got their own, they had their own Jeffrey Epstein there, like legit, like underage parties. Like it's crazy. The amount of craziness. They have Ponzi schemes with the judges. They got one of the prosecutors murdered his wife and got nothing out of it. Like these guys are out of control in Pike County. The feds come in there and they round up people sometimes. It's insane. And then the judges run the drugs. So the judges run the drugs to the mountain drug dealers, the ones that are willing to kill people to keep themselves quiet. And it's like they run the meth all over the mountains over there. It's insane how bad Pike County is. You couldn't pay me to live there. And it's bad because the people there are great. The people that I've talked to from Pike County are phenomenal people. And there's a lot of them, and they're begging for help. And so I've been able to get some other investigators to help me do it. And we've made a lot of progress. We basically forced the judge to recuse himself because we started going after him and exposing the conflict online. And eventually he recused himself. So that was a win. So they really don't like me there. And I go after Robbie Wright all the time because he's a scumbag. And he's been part of the underage parties as well. He's been a part of paying girls for this and that. Like, It doesn't make any sense. These guys are monsters in that town, in that county. So Paul Coleman's related to Judge Eddie Coleman. So there's that conflict. So Bacon was with his girlfriend. So here's the twist in the case. Why? This is the motive why Bacon was killed. Bacon was with his girlfriend Kelly at the time of the shooting. She was pregnant with what everyone thought was Bacon's kid. But the child was just born, so we're about to find out. But everyone's telling me that that's Paul Coleman's kid. So hopefully, I guess there's going to be some DNA getting done on that. So we're going to find out. But that would explain why they got into an argument and why Paul Coleman shot Bacon in the back. And the cops want to say it's self-defense. Nah, they covered that up for old Robbie Wright's boy. But like I said, I've seen the autopsy. It's bad. It looks like he had the shit beat out of him. He was shot in the back, and then it looks like there might be a couple other bullet holes. I think he got shot through the hand as well. So, yeah, so things are getting hairy over here. I just had a county attorney just send me or just post a very nice letter about me on his personal Facebook page. So that was really nice. But he's crooked too. And he was out of Letcher County, Kentucky, which is where the giant sex ring's getting exposed because the sheriff shot the judge, and this guy's in on it. And this county attorney that's talking about me now, he's in on it in the ring, but he's trying to deflect away from the ring. Yeah, right, Rachel. Getting shot in the back's a testament in itself. That was cold-blooded murder. But this guy, he's coming after me too, but the community's fighting back at him. So I think we're starting to make some progress in empowering the Letcher County people to take their town back, just like what we did down in Laurel County, Kentucky, where the people have fought back and got rid of the mayor. So we're seeing these things change. And like, I'm no Charlie Kirk, but I want to see these towns, I want to see the people have their power again from these tyrants that have been running these good old boy systems for so long. These guys that will lie, cheat, and steal and murder to keep their little drug rings going and their little sex trafficking rings going. I want to see all that stuff stop. We're never going to advance as a society if we allow our leadership to continue to be the scumbags of the earth. Now, I'm no saint in life, but when you're oppressing an entire county of people and victimizing an entire county of people, you're wrong. And so hopefully we can continue to go. I know I'm treading in dangerous waters. I get told every day. I get threatened every day. So I'm going to try to keep myself as safe as possible. And that's where we're at. That's where we're at as a society. So everybody, I keep you all in my prayers, and everybody stay safe. And that's going to be the end of the show. I'll be back on Wednesday. I'm out. Peace.